basically meant to help others. And I don't know how many are Basecamp managers right now who are attending, but I will be focusing primarily on the Basecamp manager duties. And they're very simple. The whole thing will take me 20 to 25 minutes only. And if you already know all of those things, or you knew most of them but did not know some of it, you can then say you know everything there is to know about the Basecamp manager duties. So just to give a structure, I will indicate what is it that I'm going to. I hope you can all see my screen. So I'm going to only talk about 4 things, which is how to respond to Basecamp requests in a timely manner, tracking member progress individually, or tracking the whole club as a path progress, and troubleshooting some common problems. And at the end, after a break, you could have any Q&A session, answer any of your questions regarding Basecamp manager duties. Now, what do I mean by responding to Basecamp requests in a timely manner? It means that whenever a member has completed his level and he submits his level completion, as a Basecamp manager, we should be alerted of this and take action. We don't have to wait for days because the member needs to progress to the next level. So if I was to look at the role of a Basecamp manager, it is that when the member submits his level completion to the Basecamp manager, and please remember when I talk about Basecamp manager, I'm talking about 3 club officers. The president, the VP education as the primary Basecamp manager, and as a supporting Basecamp manager, it's the president and the secretary. So these are the 3 people who I will be collectively calling as Basecamp managers. So the Basecamp manager would review the level completion request that has been sent by the member just to make sure that he has not submitted it by accident. And if he thinks that everything is in place or correct, then he will approve the level, and so that the member can unlock the next level for the member to progress. So what happens in a Basecamp system is that when a member submits his level completion request, the system will send an alert to the email address. And this is my first tip. How can the VP education, who is the primary Basecamp manager, ensure that he gets the alert first? Now, there are many ways we can do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going now to log into Toastmasters. And the first thing, before I go to Basecamp Manager, I just want to highlight one thing about this email address, which the Basecamp system uses to alert the Basecamp Manager whenever a member has completed his levels. So if you go to Club Central, and if we go to the club contact and meeting information, you will find there is an address here. Now, traditionally in Toastmasters, the president address would normally be kept here. And as you can see, this is a club that I'm logged in called Quick Challenges. And the president of this club happens to be my wife, Priscilla Barreto. In fact, I'm using her credentials today to log in to Basecamp. So the Basecamp uses this email to send out an alert. So when a member says, I have completed a level and submits the level completion, that alert goes to this email. Now, my first tip is the VP education should be the email that is listed here should be of the VP education. Why? Because now that we are transitioning into pathways, more and more alerts will start coming as members start completing their levels, level 1, level 2. And it is the responsibility of the VP Education to process this level completion request. So if his email or her email is listed here, then we can be assured that the VP Education will get the alert first. Now, if your club is fairly tech savvy, there are other ways this can be achieved. For example, using email forwarding, or if you are using the free Toast host, for example. But the simplest tip is the VP Education, if he puts his email address in this location, then all the level completion requests will come to him first. So that's my first suggestion, that the VP Education has to do this. Is that clear?
Cajie, people are muted, so you will probably not get anybody answering.
So what I would suggest is, if you have any questions regarding this, at the end we can discuss it during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Now, yes, and Cajie, just a second. For those who want to type their questions into the chat, you can do that. Hover your cursor down below lower part of your screen. You will see chat, and you can type your question, and I will see it and post a question during the break. Back to you, Cajie.
Right. Now let me go to the main heart, which is the Basecamp Manager. And today I'm going to log into Basecamp using my wife's credentials, and she's in the, currently I think she's logged in. Why am I doing that is because last year, as Michelle has mentioned, I was the VP Education of 2 clubs and a president of the 3rd club. So I used to do Basecamp manager duties for all of these clubs. But this year I'm an area director, which means if I log in with my credentials, I would have no access to Basecamp. I'm a normal member in all of the clubs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my wife's email. Because that will allow me to access the Basecamp manager for the club that she is the president, which is the Kuwait Challengers Club. And just for your information, this club has already achieved 7 DCP goals and is one of the top clubs in the world. Now, because I've logged in as a president, I can now see the Basecamp manager option. And in Basecamp Manager, there are 2 things that we need to consider. One is called the pending requests, and one is the member progress. These are the only 2 activities that a Basecamp Manager normally does. Of course, if you want to learn more, then of course you can go to the various tutorials, videos that are available in the 3rd section called the Manager Tutorials. But today's session, I will be focusing on these 2, the pending requests and the member progress. Now, the pending request is very simple. A member has completed his level and has submitted the level completion, and you will see that when you click on the pending requests. And the actions that you will do in this screen are very simple. You will find here, for example, a member called Mohammed Ajmi has submitted a level 1 completion request, and then I have an option to either approve it or to deny it. Now, why would I approve it? Of course, because I know that he has completed it, or maybe he has submitted the level completion by mistake, in which case I can deny it. So these are the only 2 actions that we can do in this particular screen. So whenever a member submits a level completion, you come to this place, click approve if you think that the member has done the projects correctly, deny if you think that the member has maybe sent it by mistake. But today, my focus will be more on the member progress. How do we track what projects a member is doing and what level he is in? where is a club, how many members are enrolled in the pathways, for example. All this information is available in member progress. So when I click on this member progress option, I have a lot of options, and what I will do is we will go through them one by one. And the first thing I want to focus on is this box right on top here called the search. This is a place where you can look at an individual member to see what is the progress of that member in pathways, or to see the list of members who are currently enrolled in pathways. One of the easiest way to do is just to type the first few letters of the member. For example, I type RA, and I can see that there is a member called Raymond Pereira. Another tip of Basecamp is, instead of typing individual members, if you were to type the club number, and this is one of my tips, is if you type the club number, you will then get sorry. Just a second. Okay, I noticed something different, but it was supposed to list all the names of the members, but we can do that in another way, is by clicking on the view team option. So if you see the view team and you click on that, it will give you a list of all the members who are currently enrolled in pathways, and more importantly, members whose current home club is set to this particular club. So if the member belongs to multiple clubs, but his home club is not your club, then you will not see him in this list. So I can see that there are 27 members who are currently enrolled in pathways from this particular club. I can then click on any member name and you will see further details of that member. So if you click on the view team again and you check the member, for example, we can do now several things for that member. We can first of all check what is the path that the member is currently pursuing. Maybe one path, maybe two paths. And to do that, when I click on that person, if I click on this option, transcript, I will see all the paths that the member is currently enrolled in. As of now, the path that the member is enrolled in is called visionary communication. And the other things are learning material. Again, if I click on the open curriculum for that member, I can check the progress of the member in terms of how many levels have been completed. So I can see that the level 1 is completed and level 2 is in progress. If a member has completed a particular level, for example, level 1 is completed, and as a VP education, I want to encourage the member so that in the next meeting, after he completes his level or her level, we want to present the member with a certificate of completion. So to do that, if I am in level 1 and I click on this level 1 completion, I can see that there is an option called view certificate. So I can view the certificate and I can print it and present it to the member during the next meeting. This is normally what we do in our club, because to encourage the member anytime that they complete their levels. Please note that the certificate can be printed by the member themselves. It is not necessary only for the Basecamp manager to print the certificate. The certificate can be printed by the member also. So let me close this. So similarly, I can go to any member, just type the name, or this way. So it will open that member. Or alternatively, as I mentioned, we can click on the view team to see all the members. Then I can go to individual member, and once I click on that member's details, I can check the transcript. And again, in this case, the member is doing a path called strategic relationship. So again, I open the curriculum. And here I can see that a member has completed 3 levels. And if I click on level 4, this is the level that the member is currently pursuing. And as I said, on any level, I can click the level that is completed, and then I can print the certificate. So this is as far as looking at the member's progress in terms of what levels you have completed. What else can we do here for the member? We can also look at the feedback, and you can share your own feedback for the member. Feedback is something that will take little time, I guess, for people to start using. But this is a good way of leaving feedback, which will be, instead of writing on a piece of paper after every speech and giving it to the speaker, you could directly come to his Basecamp profile and leave the feedback there. And that feedback could be made in such a way that it is visible to everyone by default, or you can say this feedback is only for this member, or the feedback is for the member and the Basecamp manager, which is the member plus those 3 club officers. Whether your club encourages the use of feedback is up to each club, because if the members are not very tech savvy, they might hesitate to go all the way to Basecamp, log in, then find the member, then leave the feedback. That is something, but over time, as members start transitioning from the traditional program to pathways, I expect this becoming more and more common. The other point I want to highlight it is, besides the transcript, where you can see the progress of the member and the feedback, also we have something called e-portfolio. And this is something I want to highlight to you. Is it is made up of 2 things called badges and documents. When you go to any member's profile and you click on documents, you'll always see 0. You will never see 1 or 2 documents there, because this section of the Basecamp is only meant for that member. So whenever he uploads any documents, maybe his evaluations or maybe his speeches, he can upload them in Basecamp, but they are accessible only to him or her. Basecamp managers cannot access it at any time. The other part is something called badges. This is something which was introduced as part of the Pathways program, where you could leave some badges to the, this is like a thumbs up. Every time you achieve a level, you will get a badge, or you can go and give yourself a badge to the member. So you'll see all the badges earned by that member in this screen. So this is as far as tracking a particular member is concerned. Now we will see how we can track the progress of the entire club in terms of information, in terms of analysis. And to do that, I'll go back to member progress. And now let us look at this dashboard that we see here. We can see individual progress, path progress, path type, recently selected paths, and external training. Normally, when you click on individual progress, sometimes you might find this screen empty and you might think, what's happening? Why is this screen empty? And this is my next tip for you, because if you notice, as I move my mouse into the box, suddenly an arrow appears here. And if I move out, it disappears. So many people get confused. How do I see this report? Because to see the report or to update the report, you must come and look at this drop down, click on it, and then say refresh. Because until you refresh, the screen is essentially blank. And many people get confused about it. So as Basecamp managers, you should sort of educate others. Click on this arrow, click refresh. It takes little time, maybe half a minute, while it uploads all the, or refreshes all the data. And once that is done, you would see the report of the progress. And you can see that this is level 1 progress. The same thing, you have level 2 progress, you have level 3 progress. So it shows you in level 1, how many people are pursuing each path. So I can see that in dynamic leadership, 4 members are currently pursuing this path. The innovative planning seems to be the most popular path because 7 members are currently enrolled in this path. Let me check if there is any updates for level 2 also. So again, I'll click here, I'll refresh. So this gives us a very quick overview of all the paths that are currently being pursued in your club. One important thing I want to highlight to you is if a member is a dual member and his current club is set to a club other than your club, then you will not see him in this list. If I want further details about this, who are these members? Who are these 7 members pursuing innovative planning? Who are the 4 members pursuing dynamic leadership? Then again, I can click on this button and I have 2 options. I can view the details on the screen or I can export it to Excel to do further analysis. If I just click view details, it will bring up a report for me showing me all the members who are pursuing. So as I said, 7 members are pursuing innovative planning. I can see their names here. Okay. Secondly, if I wanted to do further analysis, I could click on this and say export to Excel, where it will download the file for me in the Excel format, and I can play around with it further. So this is an Excel file which allows me to make further reports, graphs, whatever I want to do. So this is how I have exported the entire level 1. Same way you have to do individually for level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. Currently, there is no single report, though many members have asked for it, which will give you all of these 5 levels in one output. We have to go level by level. Similarly, you can do analysis based on path. So if I look at the path, again, if you want the latest report, always come here, this small arrow, click on it, refresh, so you know you are looking at the latest data. This analysis or this dashboard looks at the different paths in terms of how many are registered, how many are in progress. Because there are many people who sign up for pathways, but they don't actually start working on the projects. So you will see that there are people who are registered, 3 here in innovative planning, and 5 are in progress. So again, you can do analysis of each path in terms of what is happening, who's doing the, why are they not starting their projects. You can get all that information here. So paths registered, not started. This is a very interesting report. As a VP education, I want to know why all these people have registered but not yet started their project. So what I'll do, I'll click here, I'll view details, and I can then start talking to these members and say, hi, you are registered in effective coaching, but you have not yet given any projects. What's stopping you? Can we talk? Can we discuss? Do you need a mentor? So these are the conversations we can have as VP education by looking at these reports. Now, I have a few common problems that we encounter as Basecamp manager. I just wanted to quickly run through them. It will take me 5 minutes maximum, just to keep them in your mind. And the first problem I want to highlight to you is, now I will exit the Basecamp and go to normal Basecamp. So let's say I'm logged in as a member doing my projects, and I go to, instead of Basecamp manager, now I'm a member. I go to Basecamp and I go to my education transcript. Now one of the common problem we always get, and it is always posted regularly, is member will say, I have done everything, but I'm unable to mark my project as completed. So if I am in my path, and let's say I'm doing level 2, and let's say I have finished my project, understanding your leadership style, but I'm unable to get it marked as completed. And the most common problem that we have found why this happens is when the member opens his curriculum, and this is, by the way, this is something you can see has improved. A month ago, when you opened the Basecamp curriculum, it would open into a small dialog window. Now you can see that it has opened in a separate tab. And the problem that it used to happen is that the screen would be, you could resize the screen and you would not see the navigation arrows properly. And that would cause a lot of frustration. Luckily, that has now been changed so that when you open the curriculum, it opens into a separate tab. So now, the only reason why a person might not be able to mark his project as completed is, a project is marked as completed whenever a person completes the assess your skills after. So there are 2 times you have to assess the skills, in the before and after. And in this section, if you don't mark all these options that are available and you simply proceed forward, you will see, congratulations, you have completed your project, but it will not mark it as completed. So the only way you can mark it as completed is to make sure that the member goes and diligently selects all the options in the assess your skills, and only when the member sees this button, submit, you have to ask the member, have you clicked on the submit button? Because unless you complete all the questions, the submit button will not appear. So it's only when you click on the submit button that your project will be marked as completed. In this case, I'm not going to do it because I have not actually completed a project, but just give an idea. Submit is where the project is marked as completed. So let me go back to Basecamp Manager. Now, one of the other problem that as a Basecamp manager normally says is, the member has submitted the level completion, but I can't see it. When I come to the pending requests, I can't see it. And this is normally because you have to first ask the member, are you a member of two clubs? Because if the member, it belongs to two different clubs and you can't see his request, you can assume in the beginning that his home club is set to the other club, which means his level completion has gone to the VP education of the other club. If you want the member to approve the request yourself, then you have to go and tell the member, change your home club to my club. And when he does that, automatically along with it, his level completion request also will come to you. And those are the tips as far as I'm concerned. If you have understood all of this, then you are a certified Basecamp manager. Now, we can take a small break, and any questions have been shared, I can take them up.
Thank you, Cajie. There have been some, not really questions, but comments posted on the chat, but we have also been answering them. So before we read off some of those comments on the chat, anybody who has a question right now, please unmute yourself and ask the question directly. I see Venus. I wonder if this is Venus from Thailand. I see some new names. It looks like we don't have any question right now, Cajie. You went with a very good pacing, so it seems like the points were covered. There was a...
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Laversa.
Hi. Yes, I am Laversa. I have a question regarding, it appears that based on what he just said in the level 2, it appears that the member had not completed the post-assessment, and that's why it didn't show up as completed. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mine was, I know it was answered by a message, but they go so fast on my thing, I can't get to read them. But I was asking about, like, if you just do one speech, you don't necessarily tell the VP education or Basecamp manager that you did this speech, right? Or
yeah, there is no need for the member to communicate with the Basecamp manager for each speech. It is only after he has completed the entire level, then he will submit the level completion. That's the only time the Basecamp manager has to get involved.
Okay, because I guess I got to plead guilty that I bothered a Basecamp manager with having done a speech, because it didn't show up on my education. How do you get your speeches to show up?
When you say you want your speech to show up, can you be more specific?
Well, okay, I did a speech it was level 1, it was about, what is it? Oh, this is one where you do one speech and then you get your feedback and then you do another speech like it with that feedback.
Yeah.
So maybe I hit.
Okay. Yeah, so this level 1 and the project 2, which is evaluation and feedback, this is one of the complicated projects because it requires 3 different activities to be done for that project to be completed. You have to give a speech, you have to repeat the speech, and then you have to evaluate somebody else. And all these 3 activities, there is no separate project completion. You have to do all 3 and then go and mark your project as completed. So till then you have to track it yourself as a member.
Oh, okay. All right. But then like the icebreaker shows up right away. I mean, or my icebreaker showed up, but that's because it's only one speech, right?
Exactly, yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand that. I'm going to have to send him a letter of apology or something that I bothered him.
Yeah.
Hi, this is LaVersa again. I have a question.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Okay, I am the VPE of my club, but I am a member of 2 clubs, and I serve in the role of VPE of both clubs, an advanced club and my home club. So last weekend, I gave a speech at the advanced club. Do I have to have an external, well, let me rephrase that. Do I have to submit an external training to my home club in order to give a speech to my advanced club, even though I want to give the credit to my home club?
If you notice, I did not even touch upon the external training because for me, that is kind of a debatable issue. And that's why I did not want to bring in any complications by talking about external training. Now, you say you are a VP ad of 2 clubs. In essence, you will be sending a request to yourself, right?
Well, that's not necessarily true because the base camp managers, which is the president, VPE, and secretary, those are the people that approve the external training.
Yes, so let me break it down.
I know I can't approve my own.
Yes. Let me break it down to you. As far as our clubs here in Kuwait are concerned, as long as a member is delivering a speech in the club environment, that means in different clubs, even if he is giving a speech in a club that he is not a member of, we are not touching the external training request at all.
Yes.
The only time we will use external training is when a member is delivering a speech outside of the club environment. That means he is giving a speech, for example, in a social environment or in the corporate world, and there is an evaluator to evaluate him. That is the only time we are requesting members to follow an external training program. But as long as he is going to another club, whether he's a member of that club or he has been given a guest slot, his evaluation is good enough for us.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and Cajie, just to clarify, it's not just in Kuwait. It's the entire Toastmasters world. When we will have one in Mars, it will be the same thing. External training is only when it is, as you nicely said, outside the Toastmasters club environment.
Correct.
Even if you're a guest in another club, if you're speaking in an online club, if you're speaking in a blended club, wherever you're speaking, as long as there is a club that's meeting, then that's not external training.
That is our understanding, but you know, Michelle, there are many members of VPAds who have taken it upon themselves to say, you step outside of my club, I need an external training
Yes,
request.
that is so true. And on the forum, when I see that, I bristle. Of course, I bristle, and then I post very nicely. But those are the VPEs, those are the base camp managers that are giving pathways a bad name.
Correct.
They are complicating it way beyond what it should be.
Yes, exactly.
Let me see if we have another question. Okay. I see a message. Oh, it's a private. Let me see. Actually, there was a comment earlier from Noor that about a bug in the when you were explaining about the Basecamp manager going in to look at individual progress.
Correct.
And but then, you know, we were exchanging just privately, so we did not disrupt others. It is perhaps not a very good design, but like you explained, as long as you just remember that you click on refresh, then you're
Yes.
good to go.
Correct.
Is it the perfect design? No. Maybe the tech people would call it a bug. I call it not so good design. But as long as you remember, as you said, just remember to refresh, then you're
Correct.
fine.
And as long as you're talking about good design or bad design, the problem comes even for dual members. So if a member belongs to your club and another club, and he has set his home club to the other club, now you can't do a lot of things. Not only can't you look at his progress or her progress, you can't leave feedback, you can't check the feedback. You lose all the access that you had just because the member switched temporarily to another club. But that's how it is as of now. So we have to live with that.
Hmm. Yes. And as they say, there's only, I do not, I'm not sure if that's really the correct statistic, but the so-called numbers, people say there's only 5% who are dual or multiple club members. So
Yes.
95%, if they're correct, 95% of Toastmasters only belong to one club.
Yeah,
So
and you won't.
that should be a minor point then. And most of the multiple club members like myself and others here, like Noor, I believe, we kind of make sure that we check where we are before we submit. Yeah. Any other questions or maybe experiences that our participants would like to share relevant to the topic of Basecamp?
And also, if somebody has inputs which can enhance this, it is like Noor. If you have something to say, uh, I see that he has posted about external training.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, hi, this is Laversa again. I hate to keep bringing
No,
up questions. I mean, I would like everybody
please.
else to ask questions, but the problem that I ran into under the transcript, I think it's transcript, was when I was trying to determine which path each member was under,
Right.
I couldn't, in order for me to see the report, in a sense, I had to export it. I couldn't just see it on the screen like you showed. Like you can see it on the screen or you can export it into an Excel document. I wasn't able to see it on the screen. I had to, this, exactly what you're showing right now, I did the refresh.
Right. Then if you click
but it would
here,
not show me the details at the bottom unless I exported it to Excel.
so if I see now click view details of this status of all paths, I can see the details here. Maybe you have to scroll down a little bit. That's the only thing I can say.
I did that, but it didn't show at the bottom until I exported it into Excel. So I'm not sure if there's a glitch in the system or what.
There are always glitches. My only thing is go back to whichever report you wanted. Always come here, refresh, then view details. You should be good to go.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, please.
A couple of things. One, if you bring that screen back, Jen, when you're refreshing the reports, instead of having to refresh each individual window, if you go up to where it says options,
Yes.
select refresh, then it will refresh all of those windows.
Yeah, that's
It's a little shortcut so you don't have to remember to refresh each one. It does everything at once.
Great. That's a good point. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And one other comment, I also have an issue, Noor, that I've noticed that if I export, I don't see everything and I have to maximize the window and then I'm able to scroll down to the bottom. So that's something that I've noticed I had to do because I also wasn't able, when I do view details and that screen comes up, I could tell I couldn't see everything at the bottom, although generic communication, but if I maximize the window, then I'm able to see it. So maybe that will help you as well.
Yeah. I normally just export to Excel because I am IT guy. I prefer to do everything in Excel. But again, since I've been doing it for so long, I generally know who are the members who are progressing, what are they doing, because I used to track their, basically guide them. So when you're talking about 20 to 30 people, it's not that hard really, but so very rarely I will come to look at those details because in my mind, I know which member is doing what anyway.
Let me see. And Laversa, go ahead. If you have another question, we love that you're a VPE of 2 clubs. So if you have another question.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Please.
This is my first time listening in. I definitely follow Pathways Forum, but this is my first time listening into the webinar. And I just can't express how grateful I am for you guys to do this because I learned so much from others. So I appreciate it and keep it up.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Lori, listen up, because Lori has done 2.5, or is it 2.5? Because she did 2 sessions on her own. And then she was in the very first webinar where we had starting your Toastmasters year right. And Laversa and anybody else who's on for the first time, the good news is you can find all the recordings. We have them in several places actually, because thanks to helpful people. Carol McCulloch, who is the District 73 Pathways Coordinator, she has created a Google site where she has all of our recordings posted. And then let me see if I can quickly open up the Pathways Forum to show that we have units. It is on, if you're on a computer screen, you will see units on the left side. If you are on a computer or on a phone, you'll see it on top. What you can do is go to unit 7 and then, okay, it's going very slow. Hang on just a second. I'm glad I'm not sharing my screen yet, so you don't see all the mess that's coming up. Hang on just a second. I want to show you boy, it's really slow. Well, let me explain it as it's opening up. But you can get the recordings on the units or on the Pathways, District 73 Pathways site. Okay, now it's finally open. So now we are going to share my screen. And don't mind, there are several other things you might see, like number of requests for here. Can you see? Boy, there's another 61, nah, never mind, we'll do that later. But you see here on the left side, I hope you can all see my screen. On the left side, about discussion is where we normally are. There's mentorship, and then there's units. On units, it's almost like by groups. So here you have unit 1. You can scroll to unit 7. There you are. You see Tuesday talks and tips. And then there you see the recordings. And I just realized, Lori, I haven't put recording 6 yet. I need to do that. But there you can see there's 5, there's 4, there's 3, there's 2. For some reason, 2 is after 1. But the other thing that I want to share with you, and thanks, Mary, for bringing this up, is that I've coded so the announcements of the webinars are in blue, and then the recordings are in burgundy. So you won't get lost. If you're looking for the recordings, they're burgundy. If you're trying to attend the next webinar, it would be in blue. That should help. There you are. And let me see, do we have any new questions coming up? I think not, and we have 6 more minutes to the end of the session. So if there are no questions, I believe we could have Cajie giving your final wrap up maybe, or words of wisdom or advice or inspiration or anything that you want to share.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Lavasa, right? Did I get the name Lavasa? Thank you for that comment and compliments, because that is the type of comments which make us get up like today, 3:40 or 3:30 in the morning, drive all the way to work so that I can deliver this, not because of anything, but because I strongly believe that it is us who can then bring up the next set of leaders and get them up to pathways into the new program. And whatever challenges that we might be facing in pathways, it is us who will sort of solve them, find the workarounds, make it work. And so that when we present it to the members, we present it in a very simplified way. Take, for example, the evaluations that you receive from your evaluator. Everyone initially was like, oh, I need to upload this in my documents folder. How do I do that? Do I take photos? Do I scan it? So my advice always now to members is, don't stress on it. Take the paper, keep it at home, keep it filed in a nice folder. That's all that is required. If you are feeling comfortable, scan them. Then if you want to be more comfortable, you can upload them to Basecamp. I can show you how to structure the names in a way that it will make sense to you. All this can be done as an option, but it shouldn't be a mandatory thing, because then the member will get overwhelmed. But if the member's thing is, okay, I just need to prepare my speech by reading these objectives, deliver my speech, receive my feedback, and I just go and mark my project as completed, that sort of eases him into it, removes the stress. How do I do all this thing? You don't have to. If you want to, you can do them, but you don't have to. Keep it simple. But if you find a person who's very enthusiastic, who's very comfortable, fine, show him all the options. There is no problem. But they shouldn't be the standard for everybody. The standard for everybody should be the basic thing that is required for him to come in front of the club, give a speech, and get evaluated. And of course, as you go up the level, then it is more about leadership. But initially, it's all about communication. Level 1, level 2, level 3, these are all communication projects. Level 4 and level 5, there is leadership involved. But till he reaches level 4, that's a couple of months. Let him ease into it. Let him not stress about the whole pathways and base camp. Keep it simple. That's my hope.
Thank you very much. Yes, Laversa, let's have one quick question.
I am so sorry. I have another question. I just need to verify. When you're in a level in the projects, can you skip? When I mean skip, I'm saying if there's a required project and yet you have electives, can you choose to do electives first before you do your required project? I mean, I know that I'm on the Pathway Forum and I see a lot of threads going on. Some people saying, yes, you can do that. I just would like to know, because I'm a stickler for step 1, step 2, step 3, but
Yeah.
I don't want to disencourage our members if they choose to do a elective first in that particular path.
I
Can
do
you
it
tell me the
all,
correct answer to that, please?
I do it all the time, and the rule for it is very simple. Within a level, you can do any project. So if the level has 3 projects, 1 is mandatory and 2 is electives, the member can choose to do them in any order. There is no requirement that he must do the mandatory project before doing the electives. He can do 1 elective, 1 mandatory, and the elective in any sequence.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Laversa, for being the most, well, I know the others were also engaged, but for being the person to ask the most questions. I love that. I love that, because if we have a session and there are no questions, then we will just be fielding the questions ourselves. So thank you so much. Never, ever hesitate to ask questions. That's how we all learn. And speaking of learning and growing, we will have a follow-on session about Basecamp next week, because Basecamp has just so many nuances. We already had Basecamp tips last week for President, Vice President for Education Secretary, and then Cajie did more of that this week. Next week, we will have Lori come back. Lori, wave and smile. There you are. Lori will come back next week. Well, I realize I'm probably the only one who's seeing her, so there. So Lori will be back to cover Basecamp for the member, not for the Basecamp manager, but for the member. So come back for that, because there are so many nuances as well when you're a member. Things that, like, where did my project go? Because there's active, but I don't want to preempt Lori. So come back next week, same time, same channel, Tuesday Talks and Tips. And now let us all give Cajie a very big round of applause. I've unmuted everyone. Let's give Cajie a big round of applause. Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you. I will now stop the recording.